Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to our channel. There are a few questions that I want us to demystify as far as the Monday demonstrations are concerned. Tunisia, Senegal, Nigeria, South Africa and Kenya will all be holding their major demonstrations on the same day. I'm still waiting for a magician to convince me that this was just a mere coincidence. It can never be. There is a power and a force behind this. Let me explain to you. There was a time when the USA went to slumber by their African policy and they ignored Africa. Then China saw a vacuum and China invaded Africa, giving loans and giving development and infrastructure. Any African citizen who is watching this channel will bear me witness and confess that if there is any African country that does not even have a kilometer of some road that has been built and constructed by the Chinese company, then that African nation, there must be a problem. So China decided to come and entrench its roots in Africa. And with the satellite monitoring, USA realized that they were lagging behind and they were too late. Because their approach and their policy to Africa messed up some African countries and they decided to rebel. Because the USA, Britain, and part of the NATO community will come and they will still interfere with your elections. In Kenya today, in 2007, when the late President Mwai Kibaki rigged Raila Amolo Odinga of his victory, I remember the then ambassador, Ranabaga, congratulated Mwai Kibaki. When Kenyans went to the streets to start fighting, that is when they came back and forced Mwai Kibaki and Raila Amolo Odinga into a coalition government. So Amerca has a way of interfering in the political affairs of the nations, and some nations did not like this. So the Chinese government decided to come to Africa and they decided that they will not interfere. They will be watching you fight. They will give you the money. Even if you squander it in your corrupt activities, all they know that you have signed a deal and that you will return because there is always a collateral security. I understand that in China, if you are found guilty of corruption, you can be killed. You can be just fired. But they don't want to interfere in Africa. And their kind of approach really pleased the African nations. So when the USA realized that they were lagging behind, they decided to come in full swing by trying to install several presidents to help them, give them these contracts. Because look at what is happening in Kenya today. Thika Road and many other roads were built by the Chinese. And America and Britain were really feeling the heat. And so they decided that they do business with President William Samoei Ruto so that they can get some of these contracts. They did that in several countries. They are funding them, they are influencing elections and making sure that their projects, their presidents succeed. So China also decided that we are not going to sit back and watch, because if it is resources, China has the resources. So what China has done is that they have come back and they are looking at the opposition leaders, mostly whose victories have been openly robbed from them. Look at what happened in Nigeria. I don't have facts, but most of Peter Obi's supporters believe that his victory was stolen. And questions are still being asked why Atiku Abubakar, who came second, is not actively looking for his victory. Peter Obi, who is the third, is the one who went to court and is looking to get back his victory. If you look at what is happening in Senegal, the young boy, Sonko, who is only 46 years, has said that he's going to give the government a run for its money. And they're trying to level charges against him, charges of rape. The other day, the Minister of Tourism accused him. You saw how supporters woke up and thronged the streets when he was being taken to court. In South Africa, Julius Malema has decided that the country is going to shut down. So I want, and this is my personal opinion, that the China and the Chinese government has decided that if this is the game that the USA is going to play, then we can do it better. They have decided that they are funding these opposition leaders. Before Raila Amolo Odinga went to South Africa, he looked like a dethroned king because his victory had just been robbed from him. Now for, I don't know, the fifth time, his supporters were disillusioned and they were saying they will never vote again. But seems like somebody who is privy to what happened in our elections, who is privy to the result that is in the server, leaked out some information to Raila Amolo Odinga. And he told him, this is the result. It is in your hands. Go ye and decide what you want to do with it. If you want your victory, this is your result. Go and tell your supporters to wake up, to rejuvenate themselves, to resuscitate themselves, because they woke up, they voted, and this is their victory. And that is why the reason when Raila Amolo Odinga first attended a rally in Kamkunji, he was so vexed, he was so emotional. Even the leaders around him, people like Kalonzo Musyoka, never understood him. I remember Kalonzo was asking what Raila had consumed in South Africa, why he came back very furious. They no longer ask that question. And it seems to me that Raila sat them down in a meeting and told them, look here guys, this is the result. We won these elections and we are not going to sit back. Let us rally our supporters and tell them that we won so that we can take our victory. So on 20th, as the demonstrations will be going on, 4 nations will be doing it together. And I believe there is a power behind those demonstrations. Just the same way there is a power behind many African countries, those who have been installed by the machinations of our elections, by capturing the electoral commissions in African countries, and by capturing the Supreme Courts in the African countries. And if someone convinced you that Raila is going to back down, there is no backing down. One thing I know, he might decide not to go to State House on Monday. But with the facts that are in his hands, with the result that he has, I can assure you that he's not going to give up. All these rallies will not stop, and you will see this. If you want to know that this is not a coincidence, let us wait for another day, because Monday seems to be just the beginning and not the end. Let's wait for the second rally, because I know it will happen in South Africa and Senegal and Tunisia, and many more countries are going to join them. And you are going to see a pattern where these demonstrations are going to take place almost on the same day. America has been caught unaware. They thought they were the champions, but right now, other nations which have rebelled are telling America that we can do it better than you do it yourself. There is a way in which all these African presidents who have been given power by the Western nations have united together. And that is why they were very happy when Raila was relieved of his duties as the AU High Representative of Infrastructure. In the same way, the African opposition leaders are uniting together. because they have realized that they have one agenda: to fight corruption, to fight electoral injustice, to make sure that life becomes a little bit fair to the common mwananchi. Because the Western nations that give us our presidents don't realize that we suffer in their hands. Today, our president has decided to play the game of the International Monetary Fund, and all the subsidies that we were given, subsidy on electricity, subsidy on fuel, subsidy on unga, and even our school fees was subsidized when Corona ravaged our country. All these subsidies have been abandoned, courtesy of the Western powers. And that is the reason why I'm telling you that I'm one person who feels very bitter with the Western nations. All these African countries have decided that they will accept homosexuality and lesbian and LGBTQ+. Those who pretend to be men of God allow it to come through the judiciary, because they know that when it comes through the judiciary, they will not bear direct responsibility. They pretend that they condemn this, yet they are one, because they had signed a deal that they are going to accept it in exchange of the victory on election day and to be given more money. They are given money for drought, for climate change, and several things. If you see your country accepting to force you with the genetically modified organisms, the GMO, know that your president has signed a deal with the West. And so, ladies and gentlemen, with all this story, what am I saying? I want to submit to you that whatever Raila is doing, there is a force behind it. But the biggest force behind it is the common man who is suffering, who is going without food, who cannot afford basic commodities, who cannot take their children to school. That is the biggest force behind Raila Amolo Odinga. And then there is another force, a force that has been rattled by the Americans and the Britons. The war has been brought, and the arena and the field that is being played is Africa. It is either you choose to go to the West or you go to the East. If you ask me, you better go to the East. And that is my take.